Oi, oi! It's time for Into This. Oh no, we're across the. Oh, beyond. Oh, we've got too many Spider-Man movies, people. Too many Spider-Man movies coming out at the moment. We are feeling the Spider-Verse goodness, people. The Spider-Verse goodness. And to start off with, though, welcome back to NMI When You Need More Info, a podcast exploring the worlds of movies, video games, and TV shows. I'm your host Nate, and today I'm joined by the ever lovely James and Chaz. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Hello, I'm good. I wasn't expecting the oi oi. that tripped me up a little bit.
I mean, obviously you know where we're going with that, really.
Yeah.
That's a major catchphrase for a character that Chaz loves in this film, to be honest. But no, so obviously usually we do like a song intro, but I thought I have no idea. I could have done this. Actually, I could have done the Spider-Man theme song, but
The oi thing's also because we don't have a real Nate here. We've got another Nate from a different multiverse.
This is true. I am Variant Nate, Variant 6254 Nate. Yeah, that's how I'm going to call myself for 6254. I'm going to try and remember that for the end of the podcast, see if I can. But yeah, no, it's glad to be back, people. Obviously, we've been off for a few weeks. It's been holidays and very busy times, and just taking a bit of break or whatnot. But we are actually looking to get back into the full swing now. Definitely pun intended there, unintentionally as well, might I say. For our Across the Spider-Verse review and spoiler discussion. So obviously, as usual, we do a review and then a preemptive spoiler discussion noted before we actually get into it. But before we get into that, I just want to quickly ask, how you guys been since we last met up for the Guardians review?
Yeah, I've been good. I'm a little tired today. I kind of wish I had the energy today that I had after seeing Spider-Verse, I have to admit, because, man, I was buzzing from that one. But yeah, pretty good. I've been checking out Darkest Dungeon 2, which finally came out of early access. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's very different from the previous game, which in a way is really good because it means that you can kind of play them independently, but they've changed a lot of the mechanics. It looks incredible. Relevant. The animation is fantastic. Not quite as good as Spider-Verse, but pretty damn good. And I've been enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, game-wise, I've been playing a lot of Age of Wonders 4 at the moment, which is very addicted to that game. I've been doing other stuff, not just playing that. But
same.
Mostly.
I just said the interesting stuff I've been up to.
No, that's cool. I mean, I've been doing other stuff, but in terms of media, because that's what a podcast is all about. I suppose I've been watching a bit of Fubar a little bit, which is kind of it's okay, but it is kind of also up my street. But so I don't mind watching it, but it's okay. It's an it's not Arnold Schwarzenegger on the TV for the first time. I mean, in a TV series for the first time.
For real?
Yeah. So wow. It's on Netflix. And it's a action comedy essentially, and action comedies are like my jam. So even if it's mediocre, I'll still kind of lap that stuff up.
That sounds interesting. I'm really surprised he's never been in a TV show ever. Is that right?
I mean, he might have done like an appearance somewhere possibly, but he's never done a full TV show. And I know he is actually Netflix's official chief action officer now. So a CAO sort of thing.
How many jobs does this man need?
I mean, he's not the Terminator one. He's actually come out and said, I'm done playing the Terminator now. He's heard the people, so he's done now and whatnot, which is understandable. But
he was done a few years ago playing for Governator as well.
Exactly. But no, myself, my gaming time has pretty much just been Tears of the Kingdom, to be honest. Finished Jedi Survivor, absolutely fucking loved it. Can't wait for the next one if they do it. And yeah, my life has just been Tears of the Kingdom and seeing what goddamn monstrous contraptions I could create in that game, because it's absolutely insane, to be honest. Like, I found out you can use cooking pots as suspension for cars. Like, it's the level of Chaz, like, what the fuck, like, it's the level of detail that goes into these like games. Like, someone created Metal Gear Rex from like Metal Gear Solid 1 and everything. And
yeah, I wasn't really paying that much attention to what was happening with the development of that game. I knew of the first one and I've seen people playing it, and then like I was just like, another Zelda, cool, that'll be alright. And then suddenly I hear about people making mechs and cars, and I'm like, what are they doing in this game? What's happened while I wasn't paying attention?
Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely insane, to be honest. The fact that like it's going that way. I think the way the game's going, a lot of people describe the first game as the beta, and this is the full version now, because the way it is, like, there's an entire underworld which is the size of the land map, which is insane. But right, people, so obviously you're not here to talk about video games that we played. You're here to talk about a specific movie that's entered our lives that we've all been waiting for 3 years now, 3 years now.
I want to say that Spider-Verse came out 5 years ago.
Well,
2018 is what I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fair play, James. Straight on the money with 2018.
I might have looked it up yesterday.
Oh well, fuck you then.
Yeah.
So 5 years
Me
ago.
too.
But no, honestly, like this movie, we'll get into. Obviously, as you know, we're going to do a review and the spoiler discussion. But I was a bit hungover when I went to go see this movie.
Yeah, probably not the best movie to watch hungover.
Well, I went drinking the night before. I got home the next day. I was coming back on the train, and I was like, should I go see this in IMAX after 4 hours sleep? And I was like, I'll just have to go to a normal cinema after getting a couple of hours of paracetamol. And when I went in to see this film, like, I'm kind of glad I did, to be honest, because let's just get straight into it, people. This film is probably it is the most visually stunning film in at least animated film I've ever seen. Like, I mean, you could classify Avatar to a degree as animation, like CG animation, but
yeah, they're both stunning looking movies, but in very different ways. And I think the thing that Spider-Verse has over Avatar is just pure. It's like a painting. It is like a painting that is moving. Like it's insane to watch. It's like you said. It's just I can't think really of any other mainstream movie that is doing what it's doing at the moment. Maybe you know, Nate, but it's pretty unique in my from my perspective.
Yeah, and the amount of different styles it combines.
I mean, the only other movie coming out soon, which is really like a lot of movies have become inspired by Into the Spider-Verse, like the recent Puss in Boots movie, has an animation style that took to the inspiration from Into the Spider-Verse, and also there's the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie coming out, which is sort of like a 3D oil painting to a degree. It looks very interesting. It's Paramount doing that, not Sony. But it's really nice to see animation studios taking more risks now because of this movie. It's interesting the fact that this has come from Sony, who have been very, how can I put it, like mid-range with their Spider-Man movies. Obviously, before Marvel and obviously Amazing Spider-Man movies, they were okay. Marvel came along, they're pretty good. But they've done like Morbius and Venom, and they were all right and everything. Venom more so than Morbius, but Into the Spider-Verse came along, and it was like, what the fuck is this film? Yeah. Like,
I mean, Sony can actually make good movies. So
well,
that's what they show.
For me, they're killing it lately because, well, I say lately, they did Into Spider-Verse, of course. They've done this now, and they also did something called. I think
Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Yeah.
Man, what a banger as well. Like it's a bit like it's nowhere near as out there as this movie in terms of visually, but it is again really, really strong movie. So in my eyes, yeah, they clearly have the ability to do some crazy stuff. I was talking to a friend actually, and he pointed out that Sony Pictures Entertainment did the Emoji Movie as well, and I'm just like, can you think of two films that are more contrasting in terms of creativity, visual uniqueness, just like inspiration?
I mean, I believe
and the opposite of that.
I believe the creators of this are the guys who did the Lego movie as well.
That makes a lot of
like,
sense.
And obviously, I don't know, these guys, like, after the Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out, which was the final part of this trilogy, where do they go next? That is the question. Like, are they going to maybe like do maybe new offshoots of this franchise, or are they like, I don't know where it could go. But let's just mainly get into it. Like, initial viewpoints. What did you guys think of the movie?
Yeah, I mean, great art style, great different art styles. I'm not a massive fan of Spider-Man, so I probably don't get quite as much from you guys from seeing all the different Spider-Man out there, but I do appreciate all of that. I love the little in-jokes throughout. I pick up some of them just through popular culture, as opposed to my knowledge. Story-wise, there's definitely some interesting aspects to the story that I really, really like, which we'll probably discuss further in the spoiler section. I'm not one of those who's going to love the film, but I did very much like the film. I strongly like the film.
So you won't be given a Fergus 6, at least we can confirm that.
No. I give sensible scores.
That's good. I might have to kick you if you give it a 6.
You'll be happy with my score.
Cool.
But it's just not. I expect it won't be quite as high as you guys.
So I will also say that I'm not like a massive Spider-Man fan either. But this movie is incredible. The reason I like it and the previous one is because It's so unique in what it's doing. It's so creative. There is so much that they are doing. It's so, like, it's inspired. Like, there's clearly a creative team that has a vision and are following through, and they are just doing something that is no other film, as I said, in the mainstream current releases are doing anything like this. And this is a Spider-Man movie, and it almost doesn't matter, because like it's clearly like this vision would it would. Sorry, I'm tripling my words because I love it so much. I think it would stand on its own, but it's almost like it's too good for a franchise movie, because it's like so much creativity in something like it is. So yeah, obviously I really liked it. There's a few tiny things that I could point out, but no movie's perfect in my opinion. But yeah, really, really enjoyed it, and I was so hyped after I came out of the movie theatre.
I think we'll go on the positives first of the movie, to be honest. Like, I do have a few criticisms myself of the movie. Like,
Yep.
they're quite small, and they can actually be quite rectified. Like, possibly with digital release of the film, or even just like resending prints to the cinema, or even just like when it comes to the actual, sequel when they eventually do it. But yeah, my initial thoughts of the movie is that, like, when they said they were hiring 1,000 animators for this movie, I was like, okay, what are they gonna do? And then you get to, okay, let's just we'll go from here, but. Let's just say this is one of the longest Western animated movies. I do have to specify. I think it's the 10th longest animated movie, but I believe it's the longest Western animated movie.
What's the runtime?
2 hours and 20. It's 140 minutes, so it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long. So, and also I will give this movie no post credit scene, which I really liked. It was like, no, you can leave, because we can say that this movie does end on a cliffhanger.
Yes.
And boy, does it fucking end on a fucking cliffhanger.
Yeah, and I didn't even know about that, because, I don't know, I've been living under a rock, apparently. But, yeah, that was a bit abrupt, but we'll talk about that in the spoilers.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But, yeah, it makes sense that it was that long. It didn't feel that long. I was pretty bloody captivated, to be honest, so I didn't even realise. But I must admit, towards the end, because, as you said, it's a part one, I was starting to think, where are they going to wrap this up?
Because it does seem like the second act, essentially. Like, yeah, no, honestly, like, the pacing of this movie is interesting, because it does literally start off pretty much with a roller coaster ride, and then it quietens down to give you more of like the the character setting, the character emotions, the drive, which is essentially going to push this film, like the central characters that are coming into it. Like, we can say, like, when I first saw the trailer for this film, and without spoilers, we know the Spot or the Dalmatian or the cow is in the movie. Like, the fact that, like, people are like, oh, okay, this guy, he's a joke villain, essentially. A lot of people thought the joke. Turns out, from the comic books, he's actually a lot more menacing than people realised. But when people saw the trailer, they were like, okay, it's a guy who could put spots on his... Is he like Polka Dot Man from Suicide Squad, possibly? But I could tell you this, people, without going too much spoilers, this character is, like... Because he actually has, like, a big ramifications for the, like, entire film franchise, which is amazing. But
I didn't see your trailers, so I went in not knowing that character was going to be. It's not a spoiler, you already talked about it. I went in not knowing that character was going to be the main villain. So when we do a whole joke about him being the villain of the week, I actually thought he was just going to be a villain of the week. So it was so it was a surprise to me.
I can confirm that the trailers don't show that, though. The trailers literally show him. So you know how you have, like, your primary villains, your secondary and your tertiary villains. The way they portray this, he's sort of like a very, like, D-list villain, like in a corner shop, essentially, like we see it from the trailers. And people thought, okay, it's that sort of level of villain, but no one's expected it to go to this level. We can say that going into this film, because it has been promoted about that. But yeah, honestly, like, I feel the narrative for this film was excellently paced. I do have some critiques, like, I do love the way this movie ended. I thought the fact that I will say some movies have cliffhangers that, like, you go, that's really crap cliffhanger, because it literally stops. But this is sort of like Infinity War. You could feel the end, but where it ends, it doesn't, like, just stop. It's sort of like, it gives you sort of like a soft stop, essentially. Like, it allows you to go, okay, this is where we're going next, essentially, without going into spoilers, basically. But yeah, let's, so obviously this movie picks up, I believe a little bit of time after the 16 months since the destruction of the first the Alchemix Collider from the first movie with Kingpin. Miles Morales is the full Spider-Man of this universe now. He's come into his own. He's got a nice new suit with some lovely red lines down the side of his suit, which everyone keeps commenting on, which is hilarious. Obviously, but the thing is though, even though Miles Morales is the main character of this film, a lot of people are describing this as actually more of a a dual portrayal of characters, essentially, because it feels that Gwen Stacy, it's also her movie, almost not. It's definitely Miles's movie, but Gwen is definitely a very, very prominent character going in this film, like a very prominent character.
I could see it being argued that it's both of their movies, kind of almost equally, to be honest.
And the whole prologue is just Gwen
Yes.
from Gwen's perspective, so
Yeah,
she
it
gets
is.
a whole big section to herself.
And that's a very visually stunning section, and kicks off with some amazing music. I do have some critiques on the music later on that I think we'll go into the spoiler discussion, because I feel that the music, we'll talk about that a bit later. But obviously, but Miles Morales, I felt that obviously he is doing this typical Spider-Man thing now. He's starting to struggle with his balance between his life and playing Spider-Man, which I think is the Spider-Man curse, essentially. It's like you can never figure it out. I mean, we do see in No Way Home, Tobey Maguire's character, he has figured out his balance in life, but that's someone who's been it for 20 plus years and whatnot. But I love the fact we are seeing the struggles with Miles, his family, he's becoming more detached from his family. There's also some emotional struggles going on there with his parents. Gwen's got a whole situation going on in her universe with her family as well. But then we are introduced to the multiverse, or the Spider-Verse as it were, and this movie is insane. The fact that, like, in the previous movie we were given glimpses of other Spider characters out there and their specific art styles, which I loved. I was a big fan of Spider-Ham and Spider Noir with Nicolas Cage. But I love the fact in this film they did say we would visit other Spider realms and we would see the unique art styles of these worlds. The fact that we got 6 unique art worlds in this movie, and also they have stated that we have not seen every big Spider-Man character they've wanted so far. Going into the next one, they've actually held some back purposely for going into the next one, and we have like Mumbattan, like Spider-Man India, essentially. We have Spider-Man 2099's world. We have like Gwen Stacy's world, which is like this like
pastel
watercolor, watercolor essentially. Like it's and also the color in that world shifts to the emotional tone of the film, which I noticed, which I thought was brilliant.
That was interesting.
I didn't understand what that was, but okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't get that either. I must admit, like, and this is one of my few criticisms of the movie, this is a personal thing, but it was a bit distracting for me because the background was constantly shifting and at times it felt a bit random, just the shapes that were in the background. Totally a stylistic choice, and a lot of people probably love that, but for me I was a little bit like, this is a bit odd. But once we kind of got past that first section where we were in Gwen's world and back into Miles Morales' world, I was like a lot more comfortable with that kind of art style and background then. Don't get me wrong, like the first section with Gwen is still like visually stunning. It's just personal preference. I was a little bit not a fan of that particular part.
So I think like thinking for myself, so obviously she's obviously ballet inspired in that world because obviously she wears ballet shoes and like that stuff. She's very free flow. She likes to just go with the groove, essentially, go with the movement. And I think that's the reason why they gave her a watercolor design, because obviously watercolor is very, it's more looser than structure. And she is definitely more looser in this film, like in regards to like her movement, her actions, not just in her physicality, but also the narrative as well, which I think really works out really well. In the spoiler section, I've definitely got some discussions with like her relationship with her father, which I think was really interesting, and actually some stuff that's come up that we've actually discussed. We can't talk about till the spoiler section with certain groups as well, which is very interesting to say the least. But obviously, we have a bunch of other Spider characters in this movie. We have Oscar Isaac's Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. This guy is he's described as either the Blue Panther or the Muscular Ninja Vampire, because he is the only Spider-Man in existence who doesn't have a goddamn sense of humor. And how did we feel about Spider-Man 2099 or just Miguel?
Yeah, I thought I've probably delve into it more in the spoiler chat, but I thought it was a great character with some interesting depth, which I'm hoping I imagine will get explored even further in the next film.
Yeah, pretty much agree with that. I like the idea of the character, the like spider vampire guy, and yeah, kind of makes a nice juxtaposition, I suppose, for all of the other Spider-Men who, yeah, obviously they're a little bit more light-hearted.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of these characters, we can't really discuss them further until we get to the spoiler section, because there's a lot of narrative drive for some of these characters. But I know we're going to bring up Chaz's favourite character now, Hobart Hobie Brown, good old Spider-Punk, played by Daniel Kaluuya.
So fucking cool. Everything about this character, the way he moved, the way he spoke, like how he was just like, yeah, just like all about anarchy and just kind of going with the flow and not caring too much. And the art style that they pulled off with this character. I mean, there's a lot of characters with amazing art styles in this movie. It's not just the background worlds that have different art styles. Certain characters that appear have their own art style within the scene that they're in, even if it's not their own world. So Hobie was one of them. The character at the start, the flying vulture guy, who looked like a moving, sketchy drawing. Fucking loved that. That was so good. Like I think that was a point where I was just like, this is going to be amazing.
Vulture was brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
But yeah, well, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I could say this about, but the visuals of this character were just like so interesting, creative, and like I was just watching, like, you know, with my mouth open, just looking at the screen, like, holy shit, what are they doing with this animation? And I set that up for a lot of stuff in this movie.
So yeah, obviously Chaz didn't know this, but I actually brought up the article the last day or so. But with obviously in the previous movie, there was some talk about how the animation for Miles was purposely adjusted as the film went on. So when Miles is first introduced in the movie, he's on every second frame when he moves. But then when he eventually becomes and accepts himself as Spider-Man, he moves to the 4-frame format. So he's more freeform. And going into Spider-Punk, the fact that his animations are completely different. So his jacket is animated onto different frames to his body to create more of an anarchistic sense to his actual animation. I have possibly read somewhere that Daniel Kaluuya was actually the person they were going to approach from the get-go, and they were actually animating off interviews off of his voice from the get-go. And I just love that, because I didn't actually know the character was black until a couple of years ago, to be honest. Like actually looking into it, and as soon as he appears in the movie, he is like the coolest character you see as soon as he appears. Yeah. Like, and he has some like strong, even though he's not in the movie that much. Being an anarchist, he creates a big reverberations for the film going forward. He has some major impact for the films going forward, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. He was definitely a standout.
And a little twist that, you know, his little bit of impact, we'll talk about in the spoilers, that he had towards the end of the plot. I was just like, that's a really cool little bit of action that makes sense for his character, and it was a nice little callback, because obviously he'd gone out of the movie at that point, so yeah. Yeah,
definitely agree. So obviously, you know, we spoke about, I think the narrative of the film works out really well. We spoke about how like this movie ends on a cliffhanger, and how we love the story. I will say there were a couple of points where I felt like it did slow down a little bit. Like I don't know if like it, and the speeding up section did like affect me. Like I think the visuals definitely go into this film. People, I will say, like a lot of other podcasts and people have said this. If you are epileptic, do not watch this film.
I'm really surprised there wasn't a warning actually, at least not on my screening.
Yeah, no, this film, like, because I've got some friends who are, and they were able to watch the first movie, but this movie's visual art style goes way beyond the first one. Like the frame cutting, the animation shots, the switching of scenes are so quick from black to light. The visual cue changes are just insane in this one, and people have been warned, like, do not go see this film, which is really frustrating, because you'd think they design a way to allow people with those possible, you know, disabilities or ailments to actually watch these films.
Well, at least give a warning. But yeah, I was talking to Jesse about this actually, and he said that he wants to rewatch the first one because before he sees the second one, because there's so many visual elements and just there's so much in that movie. And I want to say the same for this one actually. Probably even more so. There is so much detail, there's so much movement, so many angles, so much like crazy animation that I'm heavily considering seeing it again in the cinema, because it's like,
same.
Yeah, there's just so much to see, and I don't think I took in anywhere near all of what the film had to show.
Would you IMAX it again?
Possibly, yeah.
Because I never saw it in IMAX, so I may actually be up for myself. Because I think I was telling James after the cinema, I think I fell asleep for like a minute in the cinema because I think I missed a couple of minutes. I know someone was snoring beside me. I don't know if you heard that actually.
How on earth do you fall asleep to this movie?
I was too engrossed in the film.
Yeah.
But,
3
it's
hours
clear,
of sleep.
it's clear Nate's going to give it a Fergus 6 because he clearly didn't like the movie.
Oh yeah, no, of
first
course.
week.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Fergus standard 6, but no. I will say the music, like we mentioned the music before. I think the music, like the orchestral score, was brilliant for this movie from the get go. Specifically, also Gwen has her own unique theme now as well. Like Miles has his own theme, Gwen also has a unique theme now, which I think also goes into the fact of like these characters are almost dual characters going forward. I'm wondering how that's going to play into the final movie. But my one thing is there wasn't any signature song like "What Up Danger" like
That's
in the previous
exactly
movie.
what I was going to say. So I think the soundtrack was super catchy. Like there was a lot of times I was kind of drumming along to it. You know, like, oh, this is cool. You know, this sounds awesome. But yeah, there's no standout song where you're like, oh, that's an amazing sequence with the music. So possibly weaker soundtrack than the first one, but still great.
I was listening to the soundtrack yesterday, and I will say, like, the orchestral, like, specific tracks in the movie, specifically, I think more the start of the movie relating to Gwen and the drumming and everything, they were hit more, and also the India Mumbai, Mumbarton section.
Probably the best bit in terms of music.
I loved the music for that. But yeah, there was no like sunflowers, no What Up Danger. There was nothing like that really in the movie, and I think there's a reason for that, which I'll go into the spoiler section for the movie, which I think does play into the final movie. But I think that's one of the only reasons which it does drop down for me, because I think the music was such a integral part of. You get these films where music is an integral part of a film, like Guardians and any Edgar Wright movie. I think with the Spider-Verse movies, the music's are a huge part of that because that's part of his character. But I can't wait. It's March, the next film, by the way.
Yeah.
We only have to wait till March.
I'm really glad it's not 5 years. I mean, if they need to delay it to make it good, fair enough. But if it does come out in March, that's pretty fucking exciting.
I'm not gonna lie. If it's 3 hours long, I will watch it.
Oh yeah, same.
Like I'll be honest. Like I think because it's the end game of. It's weird to say it, like, 'cause it's only 3 movies, but the way we'll get into the spoiler section. This will be the end game of these these films. To be fair, to be honest, and. I'm just looking where it's going to go. And I can say, people, we can very, very briefly mention there are so many spider variants in this movie. Like, and every variant is real.
Well, what are some of your favourites? Right, a couple favourites.
Without going into spoilers too much.
There's some like little cameos and fun ones going on.
Scarlet Spider.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting. I'm not going to... it was actually confirmed that Andy Samberg is voicing that character. And a friend of ours, he didn't know that was Andy Samberg, but when you listen to the movie, and he's like really, and it talks how like he's from like his very dark persona, because in the 90s they went all dark and gritty with their characters, so it's like a dark monologue.
That's yeah, I hear it now. Yeah,
and it's also like the spider noir aspect, where how like it's like the match is like, how Nicolas Cage in the previous film went to that.
Yeah, I got some laughs at that character.
Yeah, I think like I do want to mention again. I can't remember their name here. Just trying to find the name now. Karan Soni, I did really like Spider-Man India. Pavita Prabhakar, and also Issa Rae as Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman. I thought, when her introduction into the movie as well
was great too. Yeah.
Yeah, pregnant Spider-Woman character. Was she pregnant later in the movie? She wasn't, because you can't really tell with the animation later on.
There was so much stuff going on. I wasn't even paying that much attention, I guess.
Well, actually, no. We can say a character who was in the previous movie, very majorly, Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, as Spider-Man. Not in the movie as much we can say in this movie. We're about to go into spoilers too much, but he still has a very heavy part of the movie to play. I think it works out really well, and I love the interaction with his daughter.
Yeah, I really like what they took his character. Like putting him in that pink dressing gown was just like, yeah, that is that character. That is perfect.
I think I'd like them to lose that in the next one. I'm not gonna lie. I think I do have to mention quickly Brian Tyree Henry and Luna Lauren Valores as Jefferson Morales and Ria Morales. I think they're great characters, and it's gonna be really interesting to see where they go in the next movie, to be honest. But yeah, no. I can't really talk about some of my favourite characters unless there are spoilers, to be honest, because they do go into the spoiler section. But I can say, people, there are at least 400 Spider-Man variants in this movie. Like, it's insane.
And one thing I do want to say about that, when I saw the trailer, I think it was the first trailer that came out, and it showed all of the the hundreds of Spider-Men, basically. I was just like, oh, is this going to be like, where we were worried about, is it Khan, where there's too many of him? I was worried it would be the same thing, but it kind of works in the plot, I'd say. It's not too overbearing, what they do with it.
And also I think there's specific reasons, which we'll get into the spoiler section, why I think we do need that as well, which is really interesting. But I think we're going to wrap it up there for the actual non-spoiler talk. We're going to get into the spoiler talk because there's so much to talk about within the spoiler talk that really plays into this movie.
Can I just do 4 very quick fire Spider-Man that I really enjoyed? Okay, Spider-Cat shooting throwing up her hairball of web. That was fucking hilarious. Very shortly after the T-Rex, that cracked me up.
How the physics of that work, I don't know. How
Oh, who cares? And then the spider car, what was its name? I can't remember. It was like a Spider-Man car.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that was just hilarious. And then the 80s Spider-Man where it's kind of like one frame of animation chasing them. Yeah. Just some small little funny references, but there's a lot of good humour in this, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Any final points of yourself there before we get into the roundup?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Right, that was a quick answer there. So obviously we're going to get into the roundup now. We're going to we've given our final points for the movie. We're going to give our reviews. So I think this is a 9 out of 10 for me. I think as we've agreed, the only reason it does get a 10 out of 10 for me is because of the music, and I think that's why Into the Spider-Verse is just above this movie still, because I think I sometimes go back and rewatch that What Up Danger sequence because it's when he's falling and you hear that. And he's dropping down in the comic book panels, because I will say in this movie they don't do that as much like the previous movie, like the comic book panel styles. They don't actually do that as much, which I was quite interested in that, to be honest. But they got so many visual art styles, it's different. But yeah, I give this a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the same. I was thinking about this as I was coming out of the cinema, and I was like, can I give this a 9.5? Can I do it? And I was like, maybe. I'm going to go with the practical score. I think my heart score is 9.5 because the visuals and the creativity, I'm going to use a lot of the same words in this talk, but it's just, there's nothing else like it, and I just love the creativity behind this movie. The only reason that no movie's perfect, but the tiny smaller points. Some of the audio mixing for dialogue was a little bit...
Yes, that's something I was going to mention as well. Yeah,
a little bit hard to hear. And the plot pacing felt a little bit... It did feel like it was going to be one movie and they had to split it into 2. But yeah, it's an astonishing movie. It's probably one of my favourite movies. It is one of my favourite movies of the last several years. It's possibly one of my favourite... It's one of my favourite animated music of all time. It's incredible movie.
I can't wait for this to come out on digital. I'm going to watch this so much. Like, it's especially specific sequences again. Like,
yeah, and I hope that they do some kind of special features on like a Blu-ray or available online or something, because I would love to see how they do some of this footage, because I have no idea. Like, it's so out there and ahead of its game in terms of visual creativity and tech. So
I'm wondering if they had maybe like 1 or 2 animators per Spider-Man as well in this movie, like to put to the specifics, so it was easier to animate and everything. And then
they had enough, I guess. 1,000 animators.
Yeah, no. But how about yourself, James?
Yeah, so I think the film was visually stunning. I loved the way it combined different art styles. I thought all of that stuff was great. I thought the story was entertaining. I did feel that I liked Dr. Spot. I thought he was great. I thought Spotty the villain, he was a good villain. Except for fact, well, kind of. And this is probably why I'm not going to give it quite as high a score. So he kind of like drops off a little partway through the film. I would have liked to have a little bit more. I think that's one character where I would have liked to have a little more depth. He's got like one clear motivation, but then it is a little. It's not a great motivation. It's not a great motivation, but it's more like a comedy character who they have made into a villain, which I like, but I would have liked a bit more depth there. So I'm going to bump it down a little bit as a result of that. But as I say, visually stunning film. Plot goes through some interesting perspectives. I am looking forward to the next film. 8 out of 10 for me.
So how would we range that then? So it'd be 8.5 or would it be
9?
Yeah, but 8.5 out of 10 then. Yeah, that's good. That definitely does drop it down to I definitely want to see Fergus watch this film, because he actually seen the first film though, so
he hasn't
seen the first film, so it would be interesting for him to see both of these at the same time. Like, it'd be very interesting to do, to be honest. But yeah, so that's an 8.5 people from us. So we are now going to be getting into the boys section in a second. So if you haven't seen the movie, right, as usual, fuck off, go watch the movie and come back.
Especially this one.
Oh yeah, no, especially because we're going to get into some good spoilers now. But if you're leaving us now, please contact us at nmipodcastout.com. That's nmipodcastout.com, or search for our socials at nmicast. Right. You've had your warnings, people. It's now time for us to get into the spoiler discussion in 5, 4, 3, quip, 1, go.
You missed the best joke, which I was gonna keep for the spoiler discussion. Well, the best joke for me was the one based upon that meme. Where they're pointing to Spider-Man. That was hilarious.
Oh my god, yeah.
The fact that they were able to pull it off again after, like, it's been so... Because it was done in the last movie as well. But the fact that they were able to integrate that into the chase sequence, which was...
Yeah.
That sequence is long, and I'm not gonna lie, I was almost emotional. I was almost drained by the end of that sequence. Like,
yeah, the thing is, this is kind of why I said you should maybe watch it multiple times, because it is a lot to take in, and maybe that's why I felt like so kind of emotionally, I guess, high off of it after I came out of it, because it is quite draining. Like, it's a lot to take in.
So it was interesting because obviously, when Miles first appears and they all see him, it's interesting that they cut to literally him, like, already swinging them, jumping on him. I thought they would have at least had, like, the middle section where he actually does do that. It's interesting how they specifically cut it, and also what I almost thought they would have gone for a one shot at one point, because it does look like they were going to go for a one shot, but it's small sequences. I did love the "and he died" and then it coming through, because obviously saw that in the trailer. The fact that we have, like, Spider Horse as well with the hooves, like with the webs and everything.
Why is the horse wearing a mask? To conceal its identity.
Yeah,
duh.
Like, I love the fact that the beginning of this movie starts with Lego Spider-Man.
Yeah,
which I'm not gonna lie was spoiled for me, unfortunately, because it was spoiled by actually I can't remember. There was an article for it basically which got me, but I do love the fact that Miguel goes, "You're one of our best." I'm like,
yeah, that was good.
I also think that is a homage to the Lego movie as well, for the Chris and Miller and everything, which Lord and Miller.
One interesting thing I spotted in the credits is that only one person was credited for the Lego animation. So is that, like, did one person just do that? Was it? I don't think it was stop motion. I think it's CGI. But
I mean, did you see that? In our Discord group, people actually put up, like, one person actually recreated the entire Across the Spider-Verse trailer by themselves, and I believe they're like 14, 15 years old, and they actually did that by themselves. And obviously, the directors were praised by that. No doubt that person got a huge animation job in the future. But yeah, so obviously, let's dive into some, like, things for this film. So obviously, the main villain for this film, the Spot, he is out to kill. He's out to break Spider-Man's world, essentially, like, not just his world but his life. And coming off of this film, like, initially seeing this character as such a joke and he is not taken seriously, but the fact he is a character from the first movie. And obviously, you picked that because it's specifically mentioned in the movie how he's the scientist who has the bagel hit on his head, and he's the bagel guy and everything. But one article I did see, which I love that they tied this in. It's probably not an actual thing, but the fact that bagels have been very prominent in the last couple of years.
I was just going to say that.
I only just thought about that just before you put that up. Before I noticed that, anyways. Yeah, that just came to my mind just.
And also, I think Marvel has a big thing here where basically they can look at everything everywhere all at once and across and into the Spider-Verse and go, this is how you do a multiverse movie. Because it's insane how this, like, goes about, like, the fact that, and also, just across the Spider, there's actually, like, board, like, bounds going, all of it, everywhere over the, basically, like, bagel advertisements everywhere in the movie. And I love the fact that they did that in the movie. But the Spot as a villain, like, I thought it was a unique design, like, especially the void and everything, like, going between and everything. Like, he has to have one Spot going to different location. I did feel sorry for him at first, though, because he does talk about how, like, no one will hire him.
Yeah.
And he had to turn to a life of crime, like, and it's not his fault. It wasn't his fault.
It's a really good line. Yeah. I actually did think he was quite a good villain. Partly, I think, because he was kind of unexpected, I suppose. It's interesting that they took, what was in theory quite an insignificant character, and they built on that and they gave it a lot more interesting development. The one thing I did want to say as well about that character is once he's powered up, the art style that they use for him another astonishing looking set of visuals.
And terrifying.
Yeah, really creepy.
Did you see? So I saw on like a YouTube video where basically when he goes into that sort of realm like of the Spot world, you can actually see the sketch lines of his character. Like I loved that. Like those small intricate details, which was just visually impressive. And like when it first got announced, the fact that the person who was voicing was Jason Schwartzman, like, you know, actor, musician, comedian, like he's been in a lot of stuff. He's the main villain in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, I believe. Like, he has a very like nasally voice when he talks and everything, and then you think, oh, okay, how can this guy be the main villain of this entire trilogy, really? But I don't think he will be. Like, I think like it could be a point that like towards the end of the next film, it'll be the midpoint where he's defeated, and then Miguel becomes the final villain.
I was going to say it's kind of a perspective thing, because obviously Miles says he's going to do things his own way. You know, that might not be the right course of action. We need to wait for the third one really to see what happens with that.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see how they take that, definitely.
So yeah, depending on you know, what happens with that, you could say Miguel was the good guy, or Miguel was right, or and then obviously we have the third villain that was introduced late as well.
So I think that there's I've had a few theories about where this next film goes, because it's called Beyond the Spider-Verse. I for one thing think possibly the beginning of the film could be that he does break it. The multiverse does break, and it's Miles rebuilding the Spider-Verse essentially. Because did you guys ever watch the 90s Spider-Man TV show, animated show?
Nope. A little bit here and there.
So there's a character called Madam Web. She's like the intricate web of everything. Wasn't introduced in this movie. She's getting her own live action movie as well. I think she's going to be introduced in the next movie, because also I love the fact that the multiverse design is the exact same as the MCU. They are keeping that continuity of like this like silver blue like tree effect for the multiverse, and then it turns into the webs, which is sort of like its own aspect as well.
I recognise that visual, yeah.
Yeah, because it's in Loki specifically. It was first introduced there. One thing I want to critique is the whole canon events of this film. Like every Spider-Man, like a major character has to die for a Spider-Man character. Wouldn't of his Uncle Aaron have been his character event? Why does he have to have two? Like, or is it because of the whole he is the anomaly, which I thought was a great twist to this movie.
Yeah.
Is the reason he has to have more than one.
So I interpreted that as so they said there's two events, or two of the events that have to happen for Spider-Man. A close relative dies, and they lose a police chief in their life. Doesn't necessarily have to mean that those are the same event, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, because obviously, Gwen Stacy's dad is quit the force now.
Yep.
So and like other people said, does that break her canon event now, because he's not captain anymore? But does he become that? And also, I love the fact that we saw every Spider-Man's version, and I've got some theories about some. I was talking to this about my housemate. We saw Toby very, very briefly.
Yeah, that was cool.
In the background. The one Spider-Man we did see very prominently there was Andrew Garfield with Captain Stacy. I think he's going to have a major part, because I think we are seeing live-action Spider-Man in the next movie, because we saw a live-action character in this one, which, by the way, I loved getting Donald Glover as the Prowler.
Well, there's a few of them, to be fair. But yeah, I hope so, because was it... what's
Andrew.
The third Spider-Man movie?
Tom Holland? Oh, No Way Home.
Yeah. So I haven't seen any of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies, but I really liked him in No Way Home.
Yeah, because like when the criticisms of that of his films were his first one, his suit wasn't great. He had the best suit in the sequel, which we see in No Way Home. I actually think he had the best like Spider-Man suit, the classic. But his personality was the most like Peter Parker, essentially like the jokey aspect of it. But also, I think he's about 38, 40 years old now. He's the same age as Peter B. Parker in like this world, and a lot of people are thinking we're going to get the live action Miles Morales soon. It's obviously going to happen. He would be the perfect Spider-Man to be, because it would be his redemption, because he talked about how he became dark after like his events, and it would be his redemption to train the next Spider-Man. But anyway, that's like one of the things I theory for this movie. I think he's going to have a prominent role, because it's called Beyond the Spider-Verse. And I think we are going to break that. Because also, we don't really see Tom Holland either in this film.
Oh, yeah, that's very true, actually. Yeah, I guess you said they're holding back certain characters. Maybe they could get him.
You don't get Spider-Pig from the Simpsons movie either.
Yes. Yeah, no, we don't get that. But we do get Spider-Ham at the end, which I I loved the fact we're getting those original characters back for the next one.
Yeah, so the ending was a bit abrupt. Actually, we should probably talk about that in a minute. But one thing I do want to say about the ending is that one of those last shots where she's assembled the team and they are all in a row. That was so good.
I literally got tingles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's where we say in the review section, people, this is all because of Spider-Punk. He's the reason why we're able to actually break. Like, because we're literally, there's this whole thing, like, there's this film called Spider-Geddon in the comic books where it's like Spider-Man versus Spider-Man. We are literally getting a spider war in the next movie, essentially. We are getting two factions going up against each other. And this is why I call it the Endgame event, because the fighting in this next movie is going to be absolutely insane. Like, can we get the cat versus the T-Rex possibly, maybe? Like, that'd be absolutely hilarious. Like, Chaz would be like, yeah, down for that.
Of course, yeah. I didn't even think that, but yeah, I suppose some of them will side with Miguel. I suppose some of them will side with Miles, and then it's probably not going to be that straightforward, but maybe that'll be the general gist.
Because obviously, you know, the events, it's literally 2 days later, or literally a day is until the events of Miles' dad supposedly getting killed off. One thing I was like, in the trailers, we saw Miles' dad falling from a height. That's actually at the beginning of the movie when with the spot and everything. My theory was that it was going to be his mother dying. So it was like they play on the fact that it's playing on the dad, because in the comic books and in the game, Spider-Man game, Miles' dad is the one that dies. But I thought they may have flipped it in this movie to sort of like make a massive shock factor. That's something I think might happen going forward as well. But
probably, it's a shame. It'd be so sad.
Other people are thinking, could Gwen die?
Yeah, maybe.
Because it does say in this line, this film, Peter Parker's or Gwen Stacy's. It doesn't usually end well for those characters or Spider-Man.
That's very true as well. Yeah,
but it's not, because also there's only one Miles Morales. It seems we got tons of Peter Parkers, maybe like a couple of Gwen Stacy, but there's only one Miles Morales I've seen the entire time. Well, until the end of the movie.
When you say tons, do you mean the live action Peter Parkers?
Well, not just that. Like we got loads of different Peter Parker variants in the film, like the Indian Peter Parker, because there's different variants of that.
Yeah.
But we don't really have any Miles Morales variants until the end of the movie, which we'll get to that now. That twist at the end was absolutely shocking. I did not see that coming.
I didn't see that coming either.
But it was one of those good twists, because it was kind of set up beforehand, but you don't realise that it's been set up to do that, which is great.
Yeah.
Where it's revealed that he's there because the spider that bit him was from a different dimension. When he sent back into the dimensions, he sent back into the dimension that the spider was from. So essentially Miles ends up in the wrong dimension, and I thought, yeah, you're right, that was a great twist.
It was really well set up as well. I didn't see it coming at all, and even when she was like, "Did you change your hair?" and then "Who's Spider-Man?" I don't know, maybe I was being a bit thick, but I still didn't clock it.
Well, when he glitched, I was caught off guard. Like I didn't click the whole glitch. I thought maybe because he's just like got teleported back. Maybe he's feeling the effects of it because he doesn't have the wristband anymore. So but then I was thinking, wait, no, it's written from the first film. If you were glitching if you were in the wrong universe, and it was in this film as well. And I was like, oh shit, okay. And it was literally only at that point, because I knew as soon as his uncle stopped on that rooftop and he was hit from behind, I knew that was the Miles variant there, because it was like, it was obviously that's what it had to be. But some people have actually gone on Twitter to actually say like how obviously the Earth 42 variant, which is the spider from. That spider was supposed to bite that Miles, essentially, and he was supposed to become Spider-Man. But our Miles was to become the Prowler, so it's the yin and yang, it's the flip effect. In the first Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man's sense when he meets Miles is red and blue. Miles's is purple and green, which is the Prowler's colours. Now, he was supposed to become the Prowler in that universe. Now, because the spider from the other Miles' universe came over and bit him, in this movie, as we're looking at a Games Radar article now, people, the Miles from that universe, when you first see him, it's the same Spider-Man colours as the first movie. So it's basically his colour scheme is what he should have been, and Miles's is what he should have been in his universe. So it's flipping. How all these connect is insane to me. Like, where it's going to go. I do like the fact at the end, because he doesn't have his powers at one point, like towards the end of the movie. Like, he seems to have lost them a bit. That spark is appearing. Is it going to help him? Is he going to have to defeat his variant in this movie? Like, what's going to happen there? Like, how's he going to get away? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of open-ended questions with this particular subplot. Again, it was really unexpected, so I kind of don't know what to make of it. yeah, roll on March, I guess.
I can say, like, I love the fact that, you know, in the first movie we got this is the whole we were talking about in the review section about how the Wallop Danger moment, like him becoming Spider-Man essentially, and that was his musical sequence. I think that's the reason why they held this off in this movie, because the whole point of this movie is they keep telling him he is not Spider-Man. He is not meant to be Spider-Man anymore. I think in the next movie we are going to get that, no, I am Spider-Man, and it's going to be the big musical thing of the movie. Like, I don't know, maybe he saves Miguel O'Hara. I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to save the multiverse. He's going to defeat the Spider in a massive way. He's going to prove himself, and it's going to be this. And they might do Wallop Danger again, or a new version of it, but I think that's going to be the big musical number for the next movie.
Yeah, there was a sequence. Well, there's a lot of sequences that stand out to me, but the sequence where he's, I guess it's like a nightwear sequence where it looks like the Spot is chasing him, you know, with like the hands and all the surreal, like the buildings rotating and all that. It's not as good as the Wallop Danger bit, but like that bit was just like, holy shit. That is a crazy sequence. Do you know, one thing that a lot of the fight sequences reminded me of was that one long take from Guardians 3.
Yes.
And like that's what's so fucking cool about this movie. There's loads of moments like that in here. Not like specifically long takes, but super dynamic, like camera moving around, characters interacting and bouncing off each other, and it's insane.
I think if you're doing a Spider-Man movie, you have to work out unique camera angles, because you can't just have static shots for these characters. And the way you are right, the way it flows, and the bit where he throws himself through the cogs as he goes through the shooting down and everything. And I do like the fact that towards the end of the train sequence, turns out Miles is actually as smart as people think, and he has had a plan the entire time.
Yeah, that was cool.
He probably put that together as he was going, but, you know, I do love the fact that, you know, he's constantly told, oh, you're not this, and Miles is like, nah, man, I'm going to do it my own way, and he just, like, annihilates Miguel at that point, and I think that's the reason why he'll save him in the next movie, to be honest.
And it's kind of crazy, like, it's almost unbelievable that he would be outsmart and best that many Spider-Men.
They're too busy accusing each other as to...
They all get distracted long enough for him to escape.
I do love that pause as well when that Spider-Man comes through the door and Miles is just hanging on the back of the guy. It's like, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Have you got any comments, like spoiler comments at all, like to talk about, dude?
Apart from that awesome meme moment, we already talked about the twist with evil Miles and good Miles, and that'd be interesting following that up.
What are those pigtails though?
I don't know, to be honest. But yeah, no, obviously, you know, I love the fact that you know, they can sort of like control you know, breaks in the multiverse by bringing these other Spider-Man variants in. We didn't really discuss this in the review section, but obviously with Spider-Man 2, the video game, coming out this year, full confirmed, there's a very, very tiny Easter egg in this movie where Genki is playing a game, and it turns out it is actually gameplay footage from the new Spider-Man game, which they haven't even showed. So they've showed specific footage, but not this, and I love the fact that they implanted it in the movie, which is like, the level of detail they've gone in this film is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And obviously we got the PS5 Spider-Man character in the little video game montage characters section, and I love the fact that some of the villains, like, this is a very unique chameleon and a very boring rhino, and like, you know, it's just variants like that essentially. I love the fact that we've got the opposing teams from the get-go. It's interesting that Andy Samberg, who everyone really loves and everything, he's like on the opposition team now. He's like the dark and broody type and everything. But we do have Jessica Drew, which is sort of like the wild card now, because she is she's the one who she saw Gwen leave to go find the other characters, and is she going to be the wild card essentially that stops Miguel in the next movie, possibly?
I don't know. There's a lot of... That's what's really interesting about the film. Like, all the characters have... Well, all the main characters, and most of the side ones have very clear, like, you know, motivations or interpretations of different things, different emotional reactions. So that's what makes it so, like, and again, like, I haven't said about the characters, but the characters are great too. Like, there's very little weak points, and that's one of the things that's interesting. Like, different characters could react in their own ways, depending on what the situation is. So, you know, that just makes whatever is going to happen in the third movie, ever the more interesting.
It's going to be interesting how they weave all those different characteristics into the story in the
Exactly.
third one.
So, obviously, we could confirm that we are getting back like all the characters from the previous movie in the final war, which I'm really looking forward to. But one character we haven't really talked about is Spider-Bite, Amanda Steinberg. She's like the digital avatar Spider, which I thought was very interesting design. One thing I was thinking about actually, with Spider Sense, they can detect danger essentially, like with something around. I love the fact when Miles is camouflaged and he's going back to the thing, she doesn't sense anything because they have this sort of connection from the get-go when they first meet each other, and it's that very subtle animation, like they're sort of kind of maybe into each other sort of thing, that brings this sort of like calmness to it, and that's why she doesn't stop the machine from being off and everything. But I don't know, this I think we're gonna have to go see this film again, and I'm gonna have to see it in IMAX. I think like this is definitely an IMAX movie, so I may have to go within the next week or so, because obviously we've got The Flash next week, which is and Transformers this week. Yeah, oh no, which I don't care about. Might be good. I don't care. Damn.
So we've basically got a whole bunch of multiverse movies again this year, with this and The Flash.
Yeah, no, that's very, very true. The Flash is a multiverse film as well, and like supposedly it's been called the greatest live action superhero film of all time as well by a lot of people, which we can't really praise one of the actors in it, to be honest, which is really frustrating because you do want to praise actors, but
I don't know. I'm going to be boring or controversial or something, but I've seen 2 trailers for that movie now, and both times I'm just like, oh man.
If James Gunn is calling it that, though, that's interesting.
I mean, I want to watch it because I've only seen I've not read a comic, but I've only seen the animated movie Flashpoint, and I loved it. So,
but no, I think I do. Yeah, I think no. So okay, let's give our theories to the next movie quickly. So, do you think Miles' dad or do you think anyone will die in the next film?
I don't want them to, but I think that someone close to Miles or maybe one of the other major characters will die. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, probably most of the universe. I mean, it's beyond the Spider-Verse. We'll destroy it all, and no, I mean, I've got no idea, to be fair. So, but I imagine it probably will do, just because that will give some emotional kind of depth to the characters.
I mean, it's a PG, I want to say, but they aren't afraid to cover heavy subjects and tug at your heartstrings. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they did, to be honest.
I do think like we are going to get Miles' second canon event in the next film, but I think it's going to be in the most unexpected way. Like maybe, but I also do think like maybe he could break the canon events. Like I think that's like
it might go something like just coming to me now. I don't know how it will work, but maybe he breaks it. Things go to hell, but somehow. I don't know if there's any time travel involved, go back in time, and then he has to let it happen. I don't know. I
mean, that is possibly, because with multiverse aspects, that is a possible way of going about it. I mean, as I said before, though, we've only seen 2 variants of Miles in this entire thing, which I thought was very interesting to say the least. I'm wondering if we might see like more variants of him in the next movie, because like if they're calling Miles an anomaly, maybe it takes more anomalies to break the canon, essentially.
Yeah, maybe there's more anomalies out there. It is a multiverse. In theory, they could do anything.
But if there's loads of anomalies out there, then they aren't anomalies.
I mean, it could be the reset, essentially.
You could. Yeah. The thing about multiverse movies is you could just speculate forever.
Oh no, very much so. I think like, obviously, I can't really ask you guys. Are there any Okay, right. Are there any like unique possible Spider-Man? Because obviously you've had your Cat Spider-Man, your T-Rex Spider-Man. Are there any possible Spider characters that you might like to see in the next film?
Spider-Pig from Simpsons movie.
You'd like to see? Yeah, well, I guess we have got Spider-Ham, but like Spider-Pig.
Venom?
Just a little bit of reference.
Venom would be cool.
Venom, like I'm surprised we never saw symbiote Spider-Man in this movie, which I think could be actually in the movie we did get the Venom sequence though in the film. The live-action sequence when Spot goes to the live-action world.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Because that's the lady from the Venom film, the counter and everything.
Oh, okay,
so,
I didn't see that film.
Yes. Well, so she's actually in the Venom movie. She, like, knows Venom, and that's why she's so unfazed by him appearing in that world. But I think, Venom, like, we never got a symbiote Spider-Man, which is possible thing. Could be a big, like... Because symbiote Spider-Man's usually quite powerful, so that could be a thing as well. But we could get other Marvel characters appear, possibly, because they do mention Doctor Strange and the kid from Earth 1999, which is Tom Holland as well. So they do mention him.
Oh, okay.
But we don't see him because that's why they're going to film who's Doctor Strange. He shouldn't be a doctor. But But yeah, no, I think I love the fact that they've said they've held back characters for the next film, because again, I think we are going to get like a massive brawl at some point in this film, in the next movie. I think that's going to happen.
I mean, like, I'm not, as I said before, I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan. Like, I just kind of watch the movies in the canon that are interesting to me. So for me, it almost doesn't matter like who they bring in. It's just, you know, if they do some interesting stuff, if they keep along with the same level of quality and they keep the plot interesting and I guess to an extent not generic and not predictable, then I'm happy.
No, I completely agree. I mean, one Spider-Man variant I would like to see is the Ultimate Spider-Man variant. Basically, in the Ultimate Spider-Man comic book, which came in like the early 2000s, this was the introduction of Miles Morales. And he was like basically Peter died in a massive battle and Miles Morales took over. He was the introduction there. But we never saw that variant in this film. And I think you have to show the original Miles Morales in the movie, to be honest. I think that's what they're going to have to do. And I think that might be a big part of the next one, how like maybe our Miles meets the original Miles and there's a conversation there possibly, which I think would be quite interesting to have, to be honest. Or how everyone was campaigning for Donald Glover, who was the Prowler in this film, to be Miles Morales in live action, but he aged out. Maybe we see a variant of Miles Morales, which is Donald Glover.
Older.
And I think that would be a great way to cap off like everyone campaigning for this actor to be Miles Morales, and just even a 2-minute sequence of giving that slight satisfaction to the actor being that as well would be really, really great to have, to be honest. But yeah, I think that's pretty much covered it all, to be honest. I will say I do agree with you. The audio mixing, I found it hard to listen to some of the voices. Sometimes it was very low pitched, and I think that could be very easily adjusted, especially for digital films, essentially. That could be really adjusted easily.
And I think it was worse at the start. I think maybe I got used to it or something, but it became a lot clearer later. But yeah, I mean, even subtitles, you know, when I get this, however, you know, on Blu-ray or whatever, I'll probably just switch on subtitles just because I like them and they're quite needed for this movie. Yeah,
no, I completely agree. But no, I think we're going to end it there, people. I think we've learned how to do a non-spoiler review and a review section now without going on to an hour and 40 minutes now. We've definitely done that quite on the spot there, people. But yeah, obviously, you know, what did you guys think of the Spider-Man movie or Spider-Verse movie? Where do you think it could go? Do you want to see more Miles variants? Are we possibly going to get hints of like the Across the Spider-Verse movie in the Spider-Man video game when it comes out in a few months' time? Because obviously that character is there. What Spider-Man variants do you want? Do you want Spider-Toad or something like that? I don't know, like, you know, having the tongue as his web, essentially. That'd be really freaky to have, to be honest, but shoots the tongue out, then the web. But yeah, let us know by emailing us at nmipodcastout.com. That's nmipodcastout.com. Or search for our socials at NMIcast. Or just search Google by typing NMIcast or when you need more info. In the coming weeks, we're actually going to be discussing IP we'd like to see turned into animation. Myself and James have got some interesting ones to discuss there. We'll be discussing that. We're also going to be doing a batch recording session at some point. So if we do miss a couple of weeks, we're going to have some filler episodes so people can enjoy that as we go forward. We are also going to be doing a retro games episode, which we've actually been looking forward to do for a while. And we've got a question for you all, people. What do you classify? When does games classify as retro? Because we've definitely got some answers for that.
I'd be interested to hear what people have to say about that, because for me, retro is kind of like PS1 / Mega Drive, maybe inching into like PS2 era, but you know, some people say the Wii is retro now.
I'd probably, I mean, for me, because I don't want to feel too old. I go anything from like 97 and before that to me would be retro.
So the PlayStation, yeah. Basically, the skip from 2D to 3D essentially would be.
First Half-Life for me is start or not retro, and that's just because that's how it was for me. That's how I would have seen things back in the day. I don't want to admit I'm becoming an old fucker.
No, I get it. But yeah, no, let answer that question, people, in one of our future episodes. But yeah, I think we're going to leave it there. I want to thank James and Chaz for joining me today.
Yeah, cheers. It's been good.
Yeah, really enjoyed talking about this movie. Bloody loved it.
Yeah, I think like, obviously we've all got a bit of a partying this weekend, so maybe on the Sunday, if we're chilling, maybe like if we're not too hungover, maybe go watch that movie again at the weekend, possibly to cap off the weekend. I'd be quite up for that, to be honest, if you're into that. But yeah, right. I think we're gonna leave it there, people. Get your web shooters on, swing out into the world, and enjoy the time. And come back next time for our lovely next episode. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.